You on my Wi-Fi? You should be. Yeah, I think you are. We going live now. So we live now. I'm gonna let everybody pull up on us in the building. We live on IG and we live on what do you call it? Instagram. No, that isn't IG. Oh, DSPs, hey. YouTube, I meant, and Facebook, I meant. So with that being said, while everybody is filling into the room, I'm gonna check over here to see who we got hopping in with us. So with that being said, can everybody, as you're coming in, joining, like the video, share the video, leave a few comments. We appreciate everybody for coming out, especially on our new and improved time. Today we're going to have a, I don't want to even say kind of how we're going to change the format just a little bit, because I think we need a session kind of to vent, because the topic of discussion is the long week in Black America, in America overall. So without further ado, we just gonna go ahead and get started, because we want to be respectful of everybody's time. And I know y'all be wanting to parlay everybody getting your vaccines. I just got my first dose, so I might wake up with superpowers. You know, it is what it is. Hey, if they are superpowers, I'm trying to be the next Spider-Man. Hey, it is what it is. But hey, what I'm gonna bring up first though is we're gonna start with the unfortunate death of Daunte Wright. And so I have this article and I'm just going to pull up. I'm sure everybody already knows about the situation, so there isn't really any need for me to go over super details, but I wanted to, just for anybody who hasn't or who's been under a rock, hundreds of demonstrators poured into the streets of Brooklyn Center on multiple nights after the fatal police shooting of Daunte Wright, a 20-year-old Black man, during a traffic stop. The shooting injected more frustration and anxiety into the Twin Cities region, where the trial of Derek Chauvin, the former Minneapolis police officer charged with murdering George Floyd, is now on its third week. I'm not going to play the video because I think a lot of people are tired, a lot of people are frustrated, a lot of people are traumatized by a lot of these incidents, because we not only have this one, we have a myriad of others, as we'll be discussing today. But essentially, they pull him over again for the traffic stop, and then you have some jostling back and forth, because I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, he shouldn't have resisted. And I want people to get out of their minds that resisting arrest is a justification for murdering a particular person, because that's not the case, never should be the case. And so even, we've seen it also able to be done when we're talking about offenders of, the white race. Because we'll get into later, when it came down to, stop Asian hate, we had the incident where the guy shot up the parlor, and that didn't go as awful as this incident with Daunte Wright went. And so, to be respectful, long story short, a woman officer, I forget her name, pulls out the actual gun, and as she's pulling out the gun and like pointed it at him, she's like, I'm going to actually tase you, and eventually pulls the trigger. So now the argument is, was it a taser? Was it a gun? Do people want to give her the benefit of the doubt? And does she deserve the benefit of the doubt? I've seen arguments, whether they be on a late night show, just in certain spaces, people are having the discussion. And I bring that up because I don't think it's a discussion at all. I'm tired of being gaslit. And I think that we as a community, talking about African Americans specifically, have to decide how we are going to start addressing and reacting to these situations. Because again, I get it. I get that it is traumatizing. I get that it is unfortunate. It is racism. It is all of those things that just compound on top of a lot of the unfortunate issues that we face as a community. But when do we get to a point, because I think a lot of us are starting to become numb as well, but instead of, and I'm not saying that you should react, but should you become numb to the point where you are not responding, but also not trying to create a solution? And what I mean by that is I hear a lot of people complain about police brutality. I hear a lot of people complain about the political infrastructure. I hear a lot of people complain about sellouts, coons, etc. And I hear all of those arguments, but when are we, as quote unquote, the smaller, I guess, populace of African Americans, going to say enough is enough? I don't want to have a conversation if they're, again, because as they mentioned, we also have another trial going on for particularly the same reasons, same mishap, arguing about or having a discussion in and around if a person meant to kill him when he had his knee on his neck for upward of 5 minutes, well over 5 minutes, right? And so how many times are we as a group going to continue to give people the benefit of the doubt when the outcomes are continuing to remain the same? Because when it was happening under Donald Trump, it was, this is Trump America, this is bad, the GOP, white races need to be done away. But I don't hear people with the same level of outrage, especially communities who are always asking us to put our social and political capital as African Americans, the people who have constantly, resiliently pushed back on white supremacy to the extent that they are here and can inhabit America. But I say all that to say, I think we have to get to a point where we are engaging the very institutions and infrastructures that we are complaining about. I, too, complain about politics, but the reason that I do a lot of things, whether it be community engagement, my choice of profession, is because I also, at the same time that I am critiquing these institutions, I will stand on any video that I put out. I will stand on any position that I say. I'm willing to have a conversation with anybody who may disagree, who may have a difference of opinion. And I mean that respectfully. I'm not going to call you out your name or any of those things because it's not necessary. But I think that we do have to have a conversation around training isn't going to overcome bias. So let's stop this whole, well, we got to train them right. This is just a bad thing of training. According to their department, they wear, as a part of their training, the taser on the non-dominant hand to basically mitigate those type of incidents. And they're in bright yellow and they weigh less. But man, what did you take away from the whole discussion or discourse around Daunte Wright and just your overall opinion on the response from elected officials and even lack of response? Because as I said, there are a lot of people who aren't saying much of anything. They champion a lot of these different causes, but there are a lot of quiet people right now, and I think it's unfortunate. So what's your take on the quietness, people, being upset, the discourse around the taser versus the gun? What you think?
I really think that this week, in and of itself in a vacuum,
I'm listening.
In and of itself in a vacuum, I think that this is really showing where this country is going and the decision that a lot of people are going to have to make. A lot of people, especially us, Black people, we are going to have to make the decision of whether we want to serve our own communities and build within our own communities with our own people, or do we want to go the route of continuing this cycle of respectability and and pretty much being at the whim of whatever legislation or whatever other classes of people give us.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a hard pill to swallow, because all of these things are showing a lack of community, lack of a Black community that supports and builds a wall around the people that are trying to advocate for us.
Exactly. And I think you touched on a great point in terms of the lack of consensus, the lack of order, the lack of structure, and the lack of vision that we have for our particular community. Because a lot of people, especially African-American people, engage in institutions and fall, I wouldn't say victim, but they don't champion our issues. And you can see it when you have things like, again, Stop Asian Hate, or whether it be the immigration issues, or whether it be issues of student loan debt, LGBT. I think all of those things are and have credibility to them. But I think too often we as a community, though, get into a bad habit of not ever speaking on our issues specifically, because we get bullied into, well, why should y'all just get such and such? Take reparations, for example. Like, why should y'all as a group just get reparations? Well, because as a group, we are the ones who mainly suffer systemic racism. And I think what we have to also be willing to discuss with people, and this is from our group outward, so us as African Americans, onto whether it be continental Africans and members of the POC community, I think we have to do a better job at getting them to understand that, look, we're not having a conversation about individual accounts of racism is completely different from having a conversation about policies that were put in place that incentivize racist behavior to lead to a particular outcome in a situation. I think that a lot of the times our narratives get co-opted, and we'll talk about that after we get into the lieutenant, because I'm just going to go ahead and move into it, because it was a lot this week. And for everybody watching, again, head over to our YouTube, our Facebook, because there is also the link where you can call in, tell us what you think. We want to hear what everybody has to say on this, because again, this is about us and where we are right now in a position in America where things are not getting better for our group. They're progressively getting worse, and we aren't seeing any policy from any leaders that specifically address the issues that arise from a 400-year-long institution, because there are behaviors that go with that, and I don't think we necessarily do a good job in addressing those things full-throatedly. Like I said earlier in the week, I particularly am tired of Black pundits on TV who are not willing to say the truth about a lot of these specific issues and go into the whole, well, we just need more training. We just need more training. And it's like, no, we don't. And you know they don't. You studied and read enough books to know that it is not training that is going to overcome Black, in most cases, in all cases, to my knowledge, unarmed men.
Exactly. Because the cops don't operate this way in the suburbs. So it's not the training.
It's definitely not the training, because they know how to do it when it needs to be done. And that's the crazy part.
I remember when somebody told me a cop saved a kitten. I'm like, what? They do that?
We know who they ain't saving. But let me get into the next article, man. Again, y'all can see all of the articles on our YouTube and on the Facebook in terms of being able to get access to the other screen. So this one, a cop was fired for pepper spraying Black Army lieutenant doing yet again another traffic stop. It's crazy because all of these things, and this could have went way worse. Head over to our YouTube. You could check out the video that I did It's a quick 10-minute drop where I talked about it just being absurdly crazy for an officer to think that I'm going to get out my car as a black man in the climate that we are in this country while you're holding me at gunpoint. Check out the vid, man, because I played a video. I'm not going to play it tonight because, again, I think everybody has seen these things throughout the week. I'm not here to re-traumatize people again, because, again, it is tiring and exhausting to have to deal with. But these are the realities of America, unfortunately. But in the relation to the lieutenant situation, I'm not sure. Did you see that one?
I didn't see it, but I read about it.
Okay, so this is what happened, man. You had two officers pull up on a lieutenant. The lieutenant apparently was driving for a little bit of time. He pulls into a gas station and he's trying to basically talk to them and explain that, you know, he means no harm. He don't basically want any type of smoke. He drove to the gas station and pulled over there because the back road was dark and he did not know what was going on, and he did not know why he was being pulled over. As this man is, again, stopping, the cops, and when you watch the video, are immediately gun out, boom, right? So he got a gun facing horizontally, and then he got a dude on the side, gun, boom. They're both yelling at him commands. He like this. I would have did the same exact thing. What up, wife? Because in the end, I'm also not going to respond to your command in terms of gesturing and posturing like I'm going to move and touch anything while you have your guns raised and are yelling commands at me. And it was so bad that, again, through all of this, he's trying to have a rational conversation. He's trying to tell them, look, I'm a lieutenant. Here go my papers. Boom, 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 boom. They still are disrespecting this man. Service and all. And this is why I tell people, respect to all of my veterans, respect to all of the people who put their life on the line for this country. But I could personally never serve this country because not only did y'all lock us out of the GI Bill and a lot of those other things that were given to veterans around World War II, they took it upon themselves to thrust you back into not only just being neglected, but being assaulted. And so, long story short, he's still trying to have a conversation with them. And the guy walks up yelling commands. It's like, I'm a pepper spray them. Boom, 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 boom. I'm watching the video. So I'm like, oh, it's a dog in the car too. So he's like, yo, can you just get my dog out? And he's also still yelling, get out the car, do this, unlock your seatbelt. And the man clearly can't breathe because he's close up on him. Wop, wop. Oh, yeah. So you know that right there is not something easy to overcome. And so, again, dude from the side he unbuckled the jump. He get out the car. He's still trying to have a rational conversation like, I don't know what's going on. Because, again, they never explained to this man one time why he was getting pulled over until after they continued to slam him down on the ground, right? Slam him down on the ground. And then the cop had the audacity to tell this man, well, you should have listened and it wouldn't have been that bad. And then while he was yelling at him, told him, yeah, it's going to get worse. So you got a lieutenant driving, pull over for a traffic stop. I believe it was something about a light, something wild. It had nothing to do with, it didn't warrant that type and level of hostility from the police because, again, there was no prior engagement before they even ran up on this dude. And so I'm sitting back and I'm watching and I'm looking, and to your point about respectability, bro, it was crazy because you have people who believe that they can work in certain institutions, work in certain areas, and be absolved of quote unquote racism, because you can hear in his voice, because he just kept saying, oh, that's fucked up. This fucked up. Because in his mind, I believe, it might not, because I know that there are other people who also feel this way in terms of, why are you treating me like this when I am a part of this particular institution? And I think going to the point of respectability is we have to get rid of all of that. Because even when we talk about elected officials, even when we talk about people within academia, you have all of these credible Black people who get silenced and boxed out until it is time to actually use their social and political capital as Black bodies to extract from the overall group. Mm-hmm. So you only value us if we're dead, or we can be a vessel for you to extract capital from a particular group with no reciprocity. And I think as a people, we have to begin to say, look, because miss me with the whole conversation of, oh, well, Black people should do this or should do that. You're seeing clearly right now that it's not dependent upon a particular behavior. And also with that, understand that, sir, ma'ams, give me 1 second. Sir, ma'ams, understand that even with doing those things, how you enter the room is how you're going to have to maintain your space in the room. So let's evaluate if we are going to play this game. And this is where we're going to have to get out this whole white boogeyman, white supremacy, because we have autonomy. We have choice in this. We have to ask ourselves, are we going to continue to enter spaces the same way? Or are we going to try something different? Because clearly this is not working. What you got for me, bro?
And to your point, everything that most people are saying, whether it be academic or just the regular person, we tried it.
We tried it.
We tried all of it. You got people that'll tell you, oh, you get so many comments. Why don't you go into politics? Done that. Why don't you become an elected official? Done that. Every major city had a Black mayor.
You know what's crazy about the whole people pushing back that way? When somebody tells you that, ask them if they understand the process to become an elected official or part of these institutions. Because what a lot of people, because people do the same thing to me in terms of, oh, well, if you have so many issues, run for office. And what I kindly tell them is, first off, you don't understand that running for office costs millions of dollars. 1, 2, you have to have the social and political capital, which means that the people who have and hold the same ideology as me have to be willing to back me in the open, not head rubs behind closed doors. No, they have to see people actively do that. So when somebody replies in such a way, just simply tell them, okay, give me 10 people and we can start there. For everybody who want me to run for office, if you want me to run for office, give me 10 people who are willing to devote themselves to my vision, fall in line with that vision, and move in accordance. Because in working in political offices, there is a hierarchy. With the elected, or what we call principals, whether you're in council, your principal would be the council member, you in the executive office, your principal is the mayor. Your principal, what they say go. That's why when I knew it was going to be an issue, again, what Biden says goes. And only those who are, in a lot of cases, have people's best interests are those who challenge. But guess what happens to those who challenge? They also get boxed out, because part of what and how we understand the electorate is that people only respect money, clout, likes, and views. If you don't have any of those things, I don't care how intelligent you are, people are not going to respect you. People are not going to pour into that to such an extent that you are able to run for office. And I'm not saying this to deter anybody, because again, you do have people who overcome all of these challenges. Mm-hmm. But let's stop just saying it in a very flippant way to undermine and devalue the power that elected officials actually have.
And more so than anything, devalue the history. Because Black people, we have a rich history of going into Congress, running for elections. We've had a deep history in that. And despite that history, we still find ourselves where we are today. If we've tried these things hundreds of years ago, when are we going to get to the point where we say, you know what, we've done this in every decade?
What it do?
Every decade we've done this. We've gotten people in the office. Every decade. We had Harold Washington. We had all of these people every decade that come in that are black faces that come into politics. We've done that all of our lives. Why are we then suggesting to people who might just have a simple critique, oh, why don't you try doing this stuff that we've been doing for hundreds of years too?
Because it's a way to just deflect and not acknowledge. And again, because a lot of people also are cowardice. So instead of challenging an elected official, they're just going to say, oh, well, you should do that, without understanding that over their term, a lot of things can change within a person's life. But I'm going to go ahead and get into the next article that we're going to be discussing. And right now, before we move into this conversation about Stop Asian Hate and the onslaught in and around that, can y'all like the video, share it, please, because that helps us out. And again, we are trying to get to 1K subscribers to help get out information in a lot of different ways. A lot of these platforms, you know, have different ways that you can engage. And unfortunately, they don't give it to every particular person, which is unfortunate. I don't think it's business savvy, but I just don't think that it should be a lock on it. But it is a lock on it. So please like and share and help us get to that 1K. We do appreciate it. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get into the next topic. Right now, we're going to talk about the Stop Asian Hate. A lot came up in and around that discussion. I'm not saying that Asian hate is cool or any of that. I'm not condoning any of the acts that have been committed against the Asian community. But what I wanted to have a conversation about, though, is how we have that conversation about Stop Asian Hate. I saw a few people come out and who are of that community and denounce it, just, you know, based on a lot of the history in and around the Black community and the Asian community. And so what I would say to Asian Pacific Islanders is, please take that up with white people. Black people have no beef with you, despite us as a group and a collective, knowing that you particularly had the same resentments toward us in terms of feeling like you are better as a community and that we are derelicts. We understand that that's cast down on African Americans almost across the board. And despite all of that, we don't have beef with any particular group, whether you Philippine, whether you any part of the Asian community, there has not been any beef. So these charges about this rhetoric and this narrative in and around Black people targeting Asians, I want to help y'all understand that when you're talking about hate crimes, part of the element that goes into a hate crime is the motive of doing a particular thing to an individual based on your identity. That has to be the first level. What I will say is that it's unfortunate that we have people who commit acts of violence against anybody, whether it be Asian or our own, because we deal with violence in our own communities as well, whether it be petty crime, homicides, etc. Understand that if you're in a community and you're an Asian person, and let's say you have a curry out, you get robbed coming out the curry out, or you get robbed or beat up, it is not inherent that is because you are Asian. It may be because that person is, like any other case, thinks that you have some type of money or something valuable to take. It's the same thing of It's the same thing with people robbing people for their Jordans. As stupid as a person might think that that is, they're robbing you for that thing because that thing has some type of value in it, whether they can sashay around in it or sell it. It is not the same thing. Give me 1 second. It is not the same thing in terms of a person doing that because you are Asian. So I really want to put that out there. And if anybody who is of that community wants to have a conversation, wants to come on and have that dialogue, I'm more than willing, because I know I have some of you as friends and colleagues. And so we can have that dialogue, and we can also have the dialogue about the entrenched racist behavior that you all have had towards the African-American community, even when you could, again, before the 1965 Immigration Act, when Asian was identified with white, the same way Indians were. And I think we got to have those conversations when we talk about POCs. Prior to, you all were being classified as white. White people made you all the model minority. White, it was a white man who came in and slaughtered, what, 8 Asians? We don't have that same level of resentment toward any other group. This is why we have such a robust demographic and diverse demographic in America, because African Americans have championed all groups. African Americans have put everybody's issues at the forefront, whether you be continental African, whether you be Asian or Latino. We were here for every single movement that had nothing to do with us. So please keep the anti-Black people, African-American people are anti to any group. Do we have ignorant people? Absolutely. Do I address those ignorant people? Check out the other shows. I address it all. But what we're not going to do as we shift demographics again in this country, as we bring in and fast track 11 million non-citizens into the nation under the Biden administration, what we're not going to do is cast out and paint African Americans as the derelict group that somehow has gained all of this agency, that we are just going to target other communities. While we're at the same time, again, you all at the same time having conversations how we are counterproductive in our own communities, which has some merit, but don't try to play both sides, please. It's disrespectful. What you got to say, man?
And like I said, the history says it all. Black people throughout history has been some of the most accepting of the Asian community. A lot of the ideologies that a lot of our civil rights leaders partaking of were originated from Asia, and those types of philosophies they're found in the Black communities, and they're found in our Black leaderships. So I don't understand how, if you go back in our history, we embrace literally word for word, our civil rights leaders have embraced every last community, every single one. You name a community, I could give you the civil rights activists who championed.
Look, it's so crazy. We didn't even embrace. We even embraced the people who enslaved us to such an extent that we are working to show them how civilized and how much we should be accepted by them. We embrace everybody. Exactly. I'm gonna move into a quick article though, because I saw this. This was crazy, and again, I don't condone violence. That's not cool. But I saw this interesting article where a man attacked a Asian woman believing she was white over anti-Asian hate crimes, right? This the article. Michael Sabong Reed, 37, was arrested Thursday night at his home. He later posted a $100K bond and was released from jail. Reed is accused of attacking an Asian woman Thursday afternoon as she sat in her car near Irvine, California apartment community, officials say. He had a gun, threatened the woman's life, and tried to sexually assault her. I don't know why you would try to do that. That don't make sense. But nevertheless, you have this, and again, I'm not advocating any type of violence. And before I get into this, also what we have to discuss in terms of anti-African Americanness is the Asian community advocating to remove the legislation that is affirmative action as a collective community. That's another conversation that we have to have, because historically that legislation was supposed to be directly for African Americans. We can have a conversation around how it got co-opted by minorities, white women, et cetera, et cetera. We can have a discussion, but to actively, collectively go against affirmative action, which was put here in place to help or try to help the very people who were enslaved, is disloyal if we want to talk about allyship. It's a lot of disloyalty running around here in these streets since we want to talk about allyship.
This man to this, this man to that.
But reparations, everybody quiet. But before I go there, I just wanted to add that. But this man, I respect him in the sense that, for the same reason I respect the GOP and racist white people, like honest racist white people, is because there's something about wanting to protect your community and feeling strong enough to do so. I'm not saying you should be out here attacking anybody. You should be held to the same standard that we as African Americans have always. You got to do it peacefully. But we know white people in America have never been peaceful. We know the track record and the history of abuse to all groups. It was interesting to me that this man said, you know what? Nah, an eye for an eye. You hurt my community, I'm going to hurt your community. And this is where America gets really, really, really tricky for people. Because what you see is, and this is the same thing, and again, listen to the African Americans. Our parents and everybody in our communities have been here for generations. We understand how they do these things. The same thing has been done with the Irish, the Jewish community, and a lot of other immigrant communities that have stepped foot into this nation. We're just trying to tell people that somebody gonna be next when we done. So with that being said, look, this is what it does is it brings you into friendly fire. And y'all need to watch ourselves as a community, because that dysfunction that you talk about within our community stems from campaigns such as this and propaganda such as this, because now they are invoking the emotional and pushing that button over and over. But see, what happened was, because you tried to attack, not right, you ended up friendly firing. And so when people ask, oh, why Black people don't stick together? Why African Americans don't stick together? Because the programming and conditioning of America has a way in doing that in its capitalistic nature. Because again, now they're going to be just like you have in the Latino community, Latinos who are willing to matriculate and assimilate are also battling with their counterparts. Same thing that we have in the African American community. It's the same cycle. But again, we have no smoke. We've been trying to tell people, back to the respectability policy, we've been trying to tell people we ain't tripping. But the whole time, let's talk about the racism, the passive racism of, oh, well, Black people shouldn't be out here wearing their pants sagging, or Black people need to speak proper English. Maybe that wouldn't happen to them if they knew how to do this. That's a conversation, because prior to George Floyd, when it was Mike Brown, everybody was, oh, well, what did he do? And oh, well, he shouldn't have been doing this. When it was Sandra Bland, oh, she shouldn't have been back talking. Oh, she shouldn't have been doing this. But now everybody want to switch when it's George Floyd. Because we got to see it. And allyship there was an Asian man standing right there watching the white man put his knee on. Where was the A, bro? I ain't saying you gotta, because I get it. That white man probably would have gunned you down too. But where was the A, bro? Like, you don't gotta do that. But it's a conversation we willing to have. But what's your particular thoughts on the whole Stop Asian Hate? And I guess from the specific angle of how it's being propagandized that we are the ones committing acts of violence against the Asian community. That's where I step away and be like, I can see that, but we ain't that's not what we do.
I mean, it's America 101. So look, other groups can't come out and say stop Asian hate, because at the end of the day, America's biggest competitor is who?
China.
Exactly. So if you want to know why those people ain't really saying much, they got smoked with the Asian community right now. So we gotta eat the beef on stop Asian hate, because at the end of the day, like,
we don't got no beef with China, because we barely do politics that way to have and understand why we should have a beef with China.
Exactly. If anything, we've been putting money in Asian people's hands
hand over
all
foot.
of my life. You know what I'm saying?
Curry outs, beauty salons,
white tees,
all that. Oh, we did used to get them jumps. The white tees that had them jumps by the pack.
Man, listen.
Black tees, you run out, that jump fade, you get it. Man.
We ain't never had that. But again, other communities have painted an image of their home country as the enemy. And that's what you're dealing with in this country. Nobody wants to call out the elephant in the room. Yes, there's Asian hate within certain communities, but let's not pretend like our country has not declared damn near war on a lot of a lot of their community.
Yeah, and we got a comment from Royal Blood 717, because that's going against their brotherhood. If a cop speak out on another cop, this is very true. And I think that brotherhood extends when we talk about groups, because a lot of the pushback that I get from members of particular institutions, you know, whether it be about identity politics or whatever, is people will say, like, for example, if I make this statement of like, well, Black people don't have any allies, and people go to these individual accounts, and what I want everybody to understand about politics is it's about the collective. It's about the collective, especially the collective majority. There are individual accounts of people who help, and I say that because part of what he's saying and people's pushback to that is like, well, it's not all cops. It's not all cops. We get it. But at the same time, look, there are enough of them to the point and the extent that a cop that is bad, the good cop is going to capitulate. Mm-hmm. Because you can be, again, like I said earlier, boxed out. You could get your life hit real quick because it gets real scary. And the thing about that is what I'm saying is we as a community, whether whatever institution we in, because even in my line of work, right? Mm-hmm. I go in willing to talk and have conversations, but at the same time, I am who I am. So I have to take certain stances and be willing to possibly be socially excommunicated and lose out on certain things just based on the fact that I know that if I do this thing, the cost that it would be to my group. Like, yeah, y'all across the table talking about, oh, it's a great idea. Yeah, because y'all win. Mm-hmm. Just like with the student loan debt. Yeah, because y'all win. Y'all already about to get 61 trillion passed down to y'all when the boomers die and boomers and silent gens die. Y'all good. Yeah. That's just another debt that you ain't gotta take your trust fund money and pay off.
Exactly. So
it's like, yeah, we have to start moving. One thing, again, I love about other groups, we just gotta, I will say that because I don't like having conversations about, oh, we should do this like this group or that group. But that concept in terms of collective cohesion needs to be emulated.
Yes.
Period.
It does.
Because we can't keep doing this whole whatever goes, which is going to lead us into our next conversation, because we got to get out of the whatever goes, goes. And did you have any last words on the stop anti-Asian hate?
I just think that our government has created a situation that nobody wants to talk about with their country of origin. And the Stop Asian Hate movement needs to address the government that is also painting their countries of origin as the enemy. I'm not saying everybody's from China, but the majority of our thinking
and how because it's you and the American ethos, and that's the problem. Like a lot of people, even when it comes to the conversations around people being anti-Semitic, like in the Black community, and I tell people all the time, I don't think that they're anti-Semitic. I think most Black people just see you as white, and they're coming at it from that angle. I don't even think we get into all of that. But again,
you could be Vietnamese, you could be a lot of different things.
People don't want to have the conversations, and because we polarized in the way that we are, it just makes it that much harder. And we're going to unfortunately move into a place where no discussion can be had. It's getting bad.
Yes.
Because everybody is, oh, you misogyny this, or you this and you that, and you this and you that. Well, what the fuck can anybody say?
No, nothing.
But it is what it is. For everybody watching, we appreciate y'all for coming out, man. Hit the like button, share the video. We gonna move into the next topic, which is going to be Black Lives Matter and Patrisse Cullors. Now, before I get into the article, I'll say this. I supported Black Lives Matter when it first came, but then once I saw the politicization and around how they were moving, I took a step back. And again, if anybody who's a part of BLM is watching or want to hold a particular stance, feel free. The link is below. I'm not saying that this is the law of the land, but BLM is unfortunately, especially in the midst of all of this, now quiet, especially as what we're going to get into next. Patrisse Cullors has been found buying a series of mansions. So, without further ado, we're going to get into it. We're going to get into it because this is touchy. So what y'all see on the screen is Facebook prevents sharing New York Post story on Black Lives Matter founder Patrisse Cullors real estate. Facebook has also blocked its users from sharing the New York Post article about the real estate purchases. The article mentioned that Cullors had purchased 4 high-end homes for $3.2 million in the United States. It also said that she was seeking real estate in the Bahamas. It contrasted the purchases with Cullors' self-identification as a Marxist, socialist, anti-capitalist. That's what you need to understand from that. And matter of fact, for everybody, since we got these beautiful technology tools, just so you can see the definition for yourself, screen share. Supporter of political and economic theories of Karl Marx. Adjective related to or denoting the political and economic. Well, it wasn't given what I hoped it did. I wanted it to go into detail about basically the positions that they took, but it makes sense because you're a Marxist because it's his theory. So that makes sense. Maybe we could do a video on Marxists because she claims that. But
that's a whole different video.
And they got basically critiqued. So basically, for everybody who's not aware, you had BLM get critiqued along with Tamika Mallory, who recently also got critiqued for taking a Cadillac deal specifically for Black women empowerment. People came out and said that it should have just been for Black people. And specifically, you probably shouldn't be doing deals with Cadillac just in general because of their long history involved with racist practices, whether it being excluding Black people from buying or just profiting from the infrastructures that were put in place. Now you have Patrisse Cullors, who has went on to buy 3 houses, was looking for another. All of these houses were upward of 3 million. And so the discourse is right now is that, well, there shouldn't be any critique. And we have social media outlets pulling down information, which I also don't agree with. If you think a person is wrong, that's a conversation that can be had. But we have already moved into with the whole banning of Joe Rogan, Alex Jones, a lot of other different people in terms of not I'm about to let Shaquille in, but not having the capacity to be able to speak to it. And so my thing is, I wish that people would be willing to have honest and genuine conversations, because what people do is it's like, oh, well, she can do whatever she wants with her money. And this is the same argument that I had with how Jay-Z and, you know, the deal with Trilla came down to as well, because it's, for me, how you make your money, again, going back to if it falls on the backs and deaths of actual the group, the overall collective, it's not a good deal, because the way business works is you need the buyer, you need the actual people in the collective bodies, because again, Jay-Z isn't valuable unless the larger investors say that he can extract from this particular group. That goes with politicians and everybody. I'm not valuable unless people see or understand that, oh, this person is being validated by this group and he has access into the collective body of people. We can't just keep saying, oh, well, this person can do what they want. It's their money. But you made your money, not all of it, most of it, off of having access to BLM and the critical acclaim that BLM gained throughout the multiple deaths of these Black men. So yes, you do. I'm a firm believer of yes, you do. If I come to y'all and I say support me because there's some Black owned stuff, I owe it to people to say that I have to move in a particular way. I have to spend my money in a particular way because it's the right thing and it's respectful. We have to get out of this whole, oh, well, it's a dog-eat-dog world. Who's that working for? The Jeff Bezoses of the world, which we're going to get into after this, because people undermining labor, doing all of these different things, it serves nobody. So yes, we should be able to have a conversation. But like I said, you got them selling to Jack Dorsey, who also owns Square and then Twitter. And then from Twitter, we already know that it had racist issues along with Facebook. And you all are giving what? Silicon Valley that much more power, that much more influence? How do you expect, or what do you think your politicians are going to do when you giving the corporations so much immense power? How do you think that conversation goes in the room? Y'all saw the hearings. We did videos about the hearings where Mark Zuckerberg basically sat in there and thought it was a joke. Who can check Jeff Bezos? This man got 3 publications, he has dominated all of the supply chains. He got Whole Foods. Who can check them? You see the Amazon trucks riding through your neighborhood. We see FedEx and UPS already petitioning because now they're infringing and becoming this is some monopoly shit I never seen in my life. Yeah, because you in everything and everywhere.
He got the railroads, boardwalk, Pop Place, the
man,
greens, the yellows.
Everything. But let's bring my man Shaq. I'm about to unmute your mic, man. Yes, sir. What you got on it, man?
Yo. On damn, man. What's the just everything, man?
So right now we are talking about Patrisse Cullors, the houses that she went on to purchase. And you know, the discourse in and around it, everybody's saying that, you know, she has the right to buy her own houses. So the question is, in all of these different situations and us crying about white supremacy and all of these different things, because again, the movement is built on Black lives, but all of the homes that you also purchased, not only are they expensive, you moved into white spaces. Do you think people have the right to critique her? And also from your own personal just position, do you think she should be able to just move in any particular way?
I mean, you know how this thing work, bro. Like, you got a lot of sheep out here that they think racism just operates in the physical form. They don't get into the layers of it. And it's just, I mean, what is BLM, to be honest? BLM is a fraud organization to jumps to start with. So like anything that they do is gonna be shady. You know what I mean? So it's just, I think we all got the right to criticize like where money and stuff is going. And I mean, they raise it. Hold on.
While he's saying that, they did, to his point, they did raise upward of like $1 billion in terms of donations alone, just off not off of Patrisse Cullors, but off of the BLM name alone. And also understand that once you get critically acclaimed like that, your speaking fees increase. So because of BLM and her attachment to it, she was also getting that bad. But I hear you, fam, and I agree with you in terms of how things are. But what do we do to move past it? Because we can't keep doing the same thing and complaining. Because my position is, if we gonna keep doing the same thing, let's stop just crying about it and just move with it.
That's what I'm. Yeah, and see, that's the people. I want to pick and choose what they want to like question, and it's just like you allow these people to come in because you gotta understand. All this started back in Ferguson. It was them, that D-Rim McKesson clown dude.
Yeah, then
All of
you
them were
had
down there in
Darren Seals.
Ferguson. Like, yeah, Darren Seals. They were wishing death on that man. Then that man ended up dead with a bullet hole in his head, and his car burned up. And they just amassed all this money, and all the grassroots people like, we never heard from these folk. Like, we never got any money from. We doing all the work, and they just coming down here to get legitimized, and then they bounce. So it's like that's what it's always been. So it's just we got the right to question everything. And for those that say, well, no, she got the right to buy a house. Like, yeah, you do, but old girl from Tamir Rice, mom, like she shouldn't be out here
Yep.
struggling if y'all raising all this money. Like is a disconnect somewhere. And that's all we saying,
And they don't champion the issues outside of the actual initial cases themselves. And so with that being said, what did you think about Tamika Mallory's deal with Cadillac to empower Black women?
Oh, I ain't even hear about it. You got to enlighten me on that joint.
So Tamika Mallory got a Cadillac endorsement. She came out with a commercial. You can find it on Twitter. You can go to her website. Basically, they are launching a program to invest, I think, a couple hundred million, like 300 some odd million, into Black women empowerment. And so part of what people's pushback was, first off, it needs to just stop being Black women empowerment and just Black empowerment, because no other group does it that way, first off. And then also the backlash that we saw Ice Cube get because he wanted to do a Black American plan. And basically people came out and said that, oh, well, it should be women included. And it's like, but women are included in Black America. And that whole discourse turned out. But basically, she's also been pushing back on a lot of people, her and that dude, my son, because they feel like the critiques are unwarranted, and that she also feels like she should be able to do what she pleases. And what she said was, just because I'm an activist, and this is a lot of the sentiment that I get from a lot of quote unquote activists, is that she shouldn't have to die broke. What I say to that is that I agree that activists should be paid for their services. But I think that part of doing that work is trying to explain to the collective why you should invest in your own uplift. Because what happens is, it's twofold. I want people through small donations, similar to the model that Bernie Sanders used, to fund a campaign to push against certain infrastructures to free myself up so that I don't have to mute myself, so that I can speak on the behalf of the group, whether it be you, Quan, the lady, my wife, anybody for that matter that falls under it. I don't want to have to obscure myself because I have a deal with Cadillac or I'm attached to an institution that may not necessarily want me to speak in a particular way. But I do agree, and this is the catch-22, and why I tell people again, I understand the coon too. I understand what people call up the sellout, because on one hand, y'all get mad at people for selling out, but I get joked for still being against the NFL when it's like, yo, that man lost everything. Or people get joked for being like, oh, you super pro-black. It's like, which one y'all want? Y'all going to stand with the people who take a stand with y'all, because for people in leadership roles, we see it all. So when people don't take that stand, we sitting back looking like, do we want to do that? You know what? This bag might, am I about to risk my whole family for niggas who don't give a fuck?
Right.
And that's my position on it in terms of the situation, but how she responded. Like on one hand, because we in a particular climate right now, and ain't nobody really trying to push back and help people push back on the Biden administration. And again, I'm saying this as a Democrat.
Okay.
And pushing back on the administration and actually helping those voices who are trying to get something for people. Because I hear people when they say, oh yeah, government ain't gonna do shit. But I'm gonna tell you this, government is made up of people. And until people elevate the right people, it is always gonna be the same. Niggas just gotta really be like, all right, cool. This motherfucker over here doing what he doing and say what he gonna do what he do. All right, since we make you, we can break you. The problem now is the people who get made ain't made by us, so we can't break them. Because it would be clutch if, let's say, Shaq and we got upset with a particular figure. Let's use me as an example.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say y'all build me up, right? I'm Gucci.
Mm-hmm.
The moment I come out and do some slick wild shit, my empire is gone. Why? Because it was funded by yours truly. And so that if you fund your politicians in that way, through whether it be a business or whatever, because there's so many avenues nowadays, you can YouTube, whatever the fuck. If you do that, you have leverage over them. And that's where I think, fuck up. It's like, nah, I'm going to put money in your pocket, because me putting money in your pocket, and white people understand this too. Like, all right, talk crazy, watch. Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, you don't need niggas? Oh, what? Oh, you say what? Okay. That's how boycotts become effective.
There you go. Yeah. And it's, I think we got the right to question everything, man, because, dealing with a system like white supremacy, you don't never know what's what anyway. So it's just like even your own, like just because we got on the same jersey don't mean we playing for the same team. That's what I tell people all the time. And it's just like, bro, when you are beholden, or when you paid by a white dollar, you beholden to that dollar. That's why, like, I understand, like, years ago, when you were saying, man, why y'all keep getting upset that athletes and entertainers don't speak out? Like, it don't make sense. And it dawned on me, like, okay, we're asking them to speak out against principles and ideologies that their employers have. So it's just like you just said. Okay, I done built up all this money. I got everybody in the hood and their mama depending on me to fund them. Do I step out here on the behalf of the people that's gonna switch up anyway? Because as soon as you don't speak out, it's like, oh man, why ain't nobody speak out? And then as soon as you speak out, it's, man, he crazy. I wouldn't have messed up my money for y'all. So it's just like, which way do you go? You know what I mean? But only thing I would say about the Cadillac deal, I'm gonna do some research on it to get back to you. But
all right,
when they paying, they in charge.
Point blank period.
So it's just like, it's Black woman empowerment, but what is it really? Like, is it it's got to be some kind of farce there. Because see, I always ask people, like,
that is the farce, because you can't empower Black women if you don't empower Black men.
There you go. So it's just like, right. So it's just like, like, I always ask people, like, when they say, oh, such and such, this white person spoke out about racism, or they doing this initiative. I always ask, if I pretty much had a system that gave me benefits and privileges unearned just from birth, and it worked for me, made me wealthy, gave me a higher status in society, why would I stoop down and help some lousy niggas out? Like, why would I do that? Like, practically speaking, like, what sense does it make? And that's why, like, I was right. Like, what? Like I have everything, so I have to give up. That's why when people say pro-black don't mean anti-white. It does mean anti-white, not in the literal sense, but just look at the optics. Okay, we got this pie, and they got 95% of it. The rest of the minorities got 5%, basically fighting for crumbs. In order for you to get this phantom word, I don't know what equality is. It won't exist. It never existed. In order for you to get that, I mean, I got to give up some of this pie.
Yeah.
Why you think when you always say, well, Black Lives Matter, they'll say, well, all lives matter. It's not logical because in order to say, okay, we admit there's a problem, when you admit you got a problem, bro, you got to do something about it, right?
Yep.
But instead, we're going to keep deflecting.
Mm-hmm.
And the more we deflect, we never talk about the problem. And the more we deflect, guess what? The Negroes get emotional. Oh man, why y'all out there hollering, hooping and hollering at the cops with shields on? Listen, man, they robots. All that protesting, hooping and hollering, that's not doing nothing. They don't care. It's a business, man.
I would love to be able to argue you against that, but the proof is in the pudding.
Bro, they don't care, bro.
They don't. And I think you brought up a great point in terms of accepting who the other opposition is and acknowledging it, because I agree with you, but I think it goes into the cowardice that we have of our group in terms of saying that, oh, it's not anti, it is anti. Because the way whiteness and blackness are set up is to juxtapose and go in opposition. That's why for me, I have always agreed with moving towards the ADOS moniker simply because it forces everybody else to identify by their ethnicity so that we can crash race. Because as well as you know, a lot of people like to play in between the black, the brown, the this, the that, and one day you're this, one day you're that, and then it's like you got so many different things to the point where now you get stuff like Rachel Dolezal. And we can't get any type of movement without structure. A lot of people will say, oh, well, you're too rigid. Look, without structure, it collapses, period.
Yeah. You got to be clear, man. You got to be clear because this is how we got so many fair-skinned Indians. Like they signed the Dow's tolls way back in the day. You got a lot of $5 white blood Indians out there. Yeah, they Native American on paper, but it's paper. You go back and look at all the Native Americans way, way back, bro, they dark like us. No white Native American.
That's true, but I think that conversation, and I think that's also what we have to not do when we are having certain discourse and dialogue. Because I know you know me, I don't believe that everything should be had in one conversation, because what it does is people weaponize, and also use that as a deflection tactic. So like, I'm sure you know, on like Twitter or any of these forums, Facebook, you start off talking about like one thing, and then a person will try to take you all the way around, and you're like, bro, this is not what we was even talking about. Yeah. And so like, for even stuff like this, it's a matter of, you know, even in terms of me and my team, it's like, let's have conversations that we can have a conversation about anything, but let's make them direct to the point so that it can be delivered in a way where, like you said, for that clarity of like, oh no, are they talking about this? Are they talking about? No, you know exactly what we talking about.
Right.
Don't try to misunderstand it. But did you have any other last words before we moved on to the next topic?
No, man. Other than that, like I said, we just, you know, we got free reign to question anything, man. Because, like I said, you don't know what's what. I mean, at the highest level, we've had politicians that don't have our best interests because, like, you know, getting back to your point, like, you know, we don't put the money in hand. Like, they're not beholden to us. Those empty promises, they don't care about breaking because there's no penalty. What are we gonna do? I mean, you know, for example, like, you know, like Obama, like, you know, some people argued, you know, he had a bunch of empty hope promises, but he still got the biggest picture in a lot of black folks' homes. You know what I mean? Bigger than your families.
He black.
You know what I'm saying?
He black Jesus. He ascended, bro. He black Jesus. Yeah. That's all you need to know. Like, nothing. He can't do nothing wrong to most people, and that's unfortunate. But I can't wait, because a lot of people are gonna be hurt, when
Oh,
it's
that's
out here in the
coming.
fame,
That's
but
coming.
it's coming. But hey, I appreciate you for calling in, fam. We want to make sure we get this cut so we can post this cut. We want to always show love to the people who call in and help us have the dialogue, because again, it's not just about what I think. It's not just about what we think in here. We just trying to really bring all of these things to the forefront, especially because I think sometimes, it's bullies out here. A lot of people talk about a lot of shit that people get bullied on, but I don't think enough get talks about, especially black male views in terms of everything just coming down to, oh, y'all misogynist. It's like, no, son, some shit just don't make sense.
We can't say
but I'm gonna put you in the waiting room if you want to wait around, because I'm gonna just move into the next topic real quick. But thank you, kind sir. We appreciate all of y'all.
All right, bro.
Let me go on. That's the good brother Shaq. Appreciate that, man, for reaching out, having that conversation with us. But yeah, man, hey, it is what it is. People, again, it's a crazy situation that we in, man. Like, on one hand, we got it, and then on the other hand, we don't. Because that's going to lead me into my next.
What makes you think we got it?
Because we have the influence as a group that if we were to pull out, everything would collapse. It's still relatively all built on our back right now. If black people was to just stop just a little bit, capitulating, because again, even all of the politicians that are in there now, I know a lot of them know what the fuck is going on. If they stopped, if everybody, I'll say just half of them started to be like, you know what? No, we're going to tell the truth. And if at least half of black people just said, you know what? Fuck it. Enough is enough. I'm going to start advocating in the open. America would be done, because they bully us into silence. You can't say, a lot of people are intimidated by fear.
You say bully, I say pay us into silence.
I wouldn't say pay us. I would say...
I think it's a lot of people who stay silent for the sake of their own.
Yeah, but what you're not taking into consideration with that one specifically is that economic violence and keeping you outside of the economic apparatus of America is an act of violence in itself. So if I hold you out for so long, and again, this is going over America's whole history. If I say, and black people, especially black men, understand that you ain't gonna get no job. We got the track record. We still, to this day, what we gonna talk about now in the gig economy, you won't got no job. So for you to get a job, for a person who's trying to survive, you're now making a decision, not because you want to, but because you understand that to survive and to eat, I gotta do it. Because I hear you. Some people are just money hungry like that. Then you have some people, which is the people who go in with good intent and they get turned out. Mm-hmm. Because it's like, I don't know what to do. And you know that if you get casted out, you know how many people they starve out economically? Just like, oh, you think you're going to go against us? We're going to cut your money off. Yeah. That's why I say, even when it comes down to the economics of it, it's bullying. Like if I know I got the money and I know I can do certain shit, I'm not just going to hold out just to force you to come into a way of submission. Can you hand me that cord? But it is what it is. What we're going to do, we're going to just have another conversation, again, about the gig economy. Y'all know we love the gig economy over here. It's something else I also don't agree with.
I can't be an influencer.
No.
I can't drive for Uber or Lyft.
No. You can, but we're going to get into it and why again. And we're going to talk about it from the lens of the Black community, because it's getting crazy. The fake innovation of gig companies, and this is from The Week by Ryan Cooper. It starts off, over the last several months, Americans have heard hundreds of stories about horrible working conditions of jobs in the so-called gig economy. Amazon contract drivers have such a brutal delivery schedules that they are sometimes forced to pee in bottles or defecate in bags. Uber drivers are often forced to work ludicrous overtime to make ends meet, much of it waiting for the algorithm to deliver a fare. DoorDash paid $2.5 million to settle a lawsuit over allegedly stealing its drivers' tips. You stole it. Innovation is, of course, a vague concept, but the economic history and the idea typically refers to technology that allows for more production with less labor. So understand where we're moving into, and understand that this is with the also the fast tracking of non-citizens and H-1B visas coming on board. So you have this, and then it goes down to talk about, now a lot of technology goes into the system, but it is not using labor efficiently. That's the problem, because technology is supposed to be able to help you do things more efficiently. It's efficiently exploiting labor. That is what it's doing. More production with more work. So I'm gonna get to that. Indeed, these warehouse jobs are also brutal that many people end up disabled as a result with chronic knee, back, and foot problems. The story with the taxi companies like Uber is even more wasteful. The entire value proposition of Uber is based on exploitation. That's upfront, paying drivers as little as possible, especially by shifting the cost of car ownership and maintenance to them. Antonio Moore, shout out to him. He's done tons of videos about this. ADOS, one of the founders of ADOS. Worse, as Herbert Horn writes for American Affairs, Uber's ride system is far less efficient than traditional taxi companies. A normal taxi company will own a fleet of cars that are all the same, thus creating efficiencies of scale in terms of purchasing and maintenance. Moving down, food delivery companies like Grubhub or DoorDash are perhaps worst of all. These basically get in between the restaurant and its customers with an app that it is convenient for the customers, sometimes putting restaurants on the service without even asking for it. So, and then squeeze the restaurant with high commissions, all while paying their delivery workers as little as possible. One study found San Francisco food deliverers made just $26K per year, and that was before expenses. Before, so $26K before expenses. Many app orders for restaurants are straight up unprofitable. New York City is considering new regulations to limit delivery app commissions. All this demonstrates an important side of function of pro-worker policies like the PRO Act to make union organizing easier, which is right before the Senate right now, a high minimum wage, and running the economy hot so that unemployment is low. The cost of benefit workers directly by increasing pay and helping labor organizing, but they also change the balance of power between workers and bosses. Just like last conversation, we have to change the relationships and how we're engaging. All these horrible gig companies rely on a large population of people desperate for work. So, like I said, I am not anti-immigrant, but I also understand how wealthy people work. And when you have a group of people who are coming from desperate situations, which again are in a lot of times caused by American foreign policy, which also nobody wants to speak to because you get silenced for that shit as well. But again, this is like a last frontier that we're kind of on right now. I don't think that there'll be more opportunities after this. Once it's locked in, I don't think that, or we're not going to see this economy boom, because what I wanted to talk about with that gig thing was that, look, we're also talking about a group that has all of this going on. We're being propagated as the villain. We have still getting gunned down in the middle of the street. We have all of the violence that we perpetuate against each other in our own communities. Mm-hmm. Then, not only that, our group collectively, not individual, I'm not talking about anybody's own individual personal incomes and wealth. Collectively, it's going to be zero by 2050. And those were pre-COVID projections. I could not count on COVID. I did not count on COVID. I've told people time and time and again that the uptick in violence would happen due to people not having the resources that they need, because that is where it stems from. I hope that they deal with it and address it. Again, you can tell people, but you can't make them listen. But at the same time, we're in a situation where people are trying to gig their way into surviving. We've done other episodes. You can check them out on our YouTube about the gig economy, why it's an issue, why it needs those regulations. When it got, again, the regulations got shot down in California over what? I think it was like the last voting cycle back in November. They voted that down. No regulations. The UK is regulating it because they understand.
Shouts out to them.
Yep. They understand that what you're doing is exploiting people. So those new immigrants are going to come in and get exploited. Then you also devalue labor. Again, just because you don't intend that doesn't mean that it isn't the impact. Mm-hmm. The workforce, people have lost jobs, businesses, up to like 4 million, 5 million in COVID alone. A lot of those jobs are not coming back. We saw juggernauts in the social services arena, like AMC, hotels, brick and mortar stores, like your Saks and big people. Fall. Ain't coming back. Downsize ain't going upsize again. Because the digital is here to stay. Most people are going to move into strictly hybrid models. So what does that mean for the workforce? Okay, so we're going to fast track 11 million non-citizens. We're going to open the visas up to 200,000 for people to get access to American jobs here. We have outsourcing of our companies, which means outsourcing of labor. We also have destabilized seniors. We also have returning citizens. We also have cohorts on cohorts on cohorts of people graduating from collegiate universities. These are all populations who have to be immigrated into the workforce. We got 2 shiny ass stimulus packages that only transferred wealth up, which is why we saw the racial wealth gap widen during COVID. Widen. Why? Because right now they're just extracting everything that they possibly can, because if you have the resources, you do, and if you don't, you don't. What was you about to get into, bro?
And another one, businesses. If you follow any of these businesses, all of their investment is in AI. Literally, you can look at Tesla. He's right now. We talk mess about him, but he's experimenting with robots that can do human.
Yeah, you see, they got the dog robots up in New York. They already using them.
Yeah, they're doing automated deliveries. They're driving cars without people. Like,
man, it's a bad situation, you know. And then again, we still got the intercommunal violence that happens, and it's disheartening because I'll be honest, I don't see a way out for the overall collective unless we like really get on our shit right now, take hard stances right now, stand up right now. That's like elected officials,
I don't see
people, everybody. And that's why for me, I wanted to do this show just as like, it's been a long week, but it's been a long year. It's been a long decade.
It's been a long life.
Because, yeah, Trump was bad, but we got bullshit now, and we had bullshit under Obama. Yes. Because, again, we didn't get any better as a group or get put in a position. And now they got an article out where, again, the non-citizens in New York are getting a check for like $15K. Yeah, I'm gonna bring it up. They getting a check for like $15K, bro. It is crazy. Crazy. Because in the end, I don't know how we're going to readjust because we keep just being sidetracked, and I'm sick of it. Of people being shocked. That.
Yeah, I hate that too.
Like,
stop it.
Because part of that is the problem. Like, what we shocked about? These people, I wrote In Death of a Nigga Boy for this reason. They are the most consistent group. Whether you agree with the morality of the decisions or not, they've been consistent. They do what they do, and they continue to do what they do, and we keep doing the same dumb shit, keep being shocked. Like you said earlier about the Chauvin trial. Look, I knew for a fact when I saw them talk about that barbed wire stuff, I said, oh yeah, I got my answer.
Yeah.
And this is I'm about to show y'all real quick how this with this article. You can check it out at the New York Times, but this is another one right here, and I'm gonna just show y'all real quick because it's hard to believe. I seen it, it was crazy. Let me see. So illegal immigrants in New York are set to get a big windfall from the state. Lawmakers approved one-time payments of up to $15,600 to any undocumented person who lost his or her job during the pandemic. Supporters say it's only right, but it's fair to divert $2 billion away from citizens and legal residents who are homeless, struggling to eat, and whose businesses are failing. That was a question. And so this is having an argument. The article from the New York Times, you could just Google in the same thing, and it'll tell you. But I thought it was crazy. Again, not because they shouldn't get any money, but a $15,600 check.
Yeah, especially
that's a nice little lump sum of money.
Especially when we on average $600. Then you got the
boo boo. And so again, man, it's like you shocked for what? You're ignorant, and then you don't want to be told that you're ignorant for being shocked. And ignorance is not a bad thing. All of us are ignorant in some way. But apparently you're ignorant because you're shocked that white people had a capacity to do this. Like, ma'am, sirs, beautiful people. They assassinated people in the open for you to see. The J. Edgar Hoover building still remains. Ronald Reagan is still held. After all of the things that we deemed as conspiracy theories came out to be true, MK Ultra, we did a video on Fort Detrick when they were doing the experiments on people right up here, right up the road. What are we doing as a group? I want to tell people, I'm gonna let you finish. And again, I'm not a perfect person at all, but we have to work through the hard shit. We can't just only want to do the easy shit, because that's what a lot of people are doing. Because everybody want to talk about black empowerment, black this and black that, but don't nobody want to work on black family. And I ain't even talking about romantic relationships, just like in general family. Most of our families are separated, especially in those families where the grandmother or like that matriarchal figure has passed and moved on, that kept all of the bigger families together. How? Because through family, you get the values. All of those things matter. So no, black women, stop just talking about black women, because guess what? With that, your sons get left out, and you get left out, because then you also don't create and help position us to slap the shit out of motherfucking other groups of men who step wrong. Because guess what? You say some wild stuff. I promise you. You say I'm not going completely disrespect, but you say wild stuff, especially in like rooms of like professionals about our group. Sir, slow your roll. Slow your roll. Like I said, even about the Asian thing. Like, I hear you, but y'all need to get it together a little bit first before we had that conversation about African Americans and what we need to do. Slow your roll. Slow down, pump your brakes. Latinos, same thing. Slow down, pump your brakes. Continental Africans, slow down, pump your brakes. Because if not for us, you all would not be here. You all would get shot on sight. And the only reason that you are elevated and matriculated is because we're deemed as the undesirable.
And one of the things I want to add, I really think that the access to the government jobs and a lot of these different things that we're able to get Black people elevated in a sense has really blinded a lot of Black communities.
Man, niggas think they better.
It's blinded them because it's no way, it's absolutely no way that you could be so far removed and live in these communities and have these vast experience. Like, there are people that have they literally have white experiences in their Black body.
Yeah, this is true, and they don't understand that.
And it's like, okay, I get that, but at the same time, how do you not understand what is now going on?
Because
you not know your history?
Like Shaq said, it's a deflection. They gotta deflect because when you accept that something is wrong, you have to do something about it. And for you to acknowledge it means that you have to die. That's where the cognitive dissonance comes in. Cognitive dissonance comes in where you're not understanding, but you slowly come to that point of understand. And for you to take that leap to fully accept what you now understand, you make an excuse or you make a different route or path. And so it's all deflection. But with that being said, man, I appreciate everybody for being on the IG, coming out, tuning in today at our much earlier time. I want to thank everybody who is watching on YouTube as well as Facebook. And if you're catching it on replay, immediately share the video, please. Thank you. Well, not immediately because we're at the end now. But also check out our website. Go over to thegildedsages.com. There are other videos up as well.
Check out C. Dolores Tucker one.
Yep. There's some community guidelines up. C. Dolores Tucker is part of Sage Talk. So we appreciate y'all. Again, I'm here to help us out, So it is what it is. And without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and let y'all get on with the rest of y'all evening. Be safe, stay COVID free, baby. And we gonna be out. Thank you. Did I leave anything out? Oh, no. Yep.